WV Uncommon Place. This podcast is a variety podcast that houses numerous series to cover mental health, empowerment, podcast framework, and various intimate theories to get to know the hosts. Along with occasional movies reviews and dives in pop culture with our event podcast episodes. The Uncommon Place digs into bringing guests on that stories don't fit the mold and are very different. WV stands for the great state of West Virginia, and every quarter we cover something in West Virginia. Stacy and myself, JR, are your hosts, so please come along for this venture to our Uncommon Place.
Welcome to West Virginia Uncommon Place, and in this continued effort to keep the Y series going based on video games, it's time we step into the realm of electronic arts. Electronic Arts made some great games in its time, but it has ruined over 20 series of games. First one I'm going to start out with is, this one's a disclaimer on this one because they did remake Dead Space, but for a long time, Dead Space was a game that sat in the graveyard with EA. The first one was amazing. The second one I didn't care for. The third one was just trash. And I don't know, Visceral, which is the people that make that game, they're a great company, but it just came back to me like that they just didn't care about it, after the first one. So they do have a remake, which I haven't played yet, but I've heard is pretty good. Another game, Dungeon Keeper. Dungeon Keeper was one of those things that was amazing if you were on the PC. And then after that, Dungeon Keeper just kind of disappeared. Ultima, one of the most important RPGs of all time. Ultima goes way back to 1991. Is probably the reason that people like Origin as a whole, Origin systems, blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, it just seems like Ultima will never come back. 1997 was the last draw on that, but it was one of those deals that I cared about. Now this one hurts pretty bad for me. Wing Commander. Wing Commander had a cartoon. It had Luke Skywalker involved with it, Mark Hamill. Origin developed that, and it was one of my favorite series. It was the one reason that I actually played PC gaming in the 90s. Once again, EA, with the way that they fumble things, they destroyed that series. And Wing Commander hasn't been back around since 2007. So, that's another one. Now, with Oddworld is a series that had a little bit of involvement with EA. It was Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. The game was amazing. You would have thought that it would have been something that would have kept EA involved with Oddworld Inhabitants. And basically, it just one of those things that it just fell by the wayside once again. Now, this one's going to be a little touchy that I'm about to talk about is Need for Speed. Need for Speed for me has not been great since Hot Pursuit, the first one on the PlayStation. The Underground series was pretty good. GameCube wise, I liked it. But Need for Speed hasn't been a thing for me in years. No matter how much retooling, no matter how much they do to it, it's not Gran Turismo. It's not fun for me. Now, it may be fun for other people, but the thing is that they spun off too many titles, and it just, a level of quality is something that sometimes EA Sports doesn't, tend to worry about. Another interesting game, Syndicate. Syndicate was a pretty fun game. The little version that we got later on down the road of Syndicate on the 360 was amazing. And now we're going on to a topic that I want to talk about, and I should have incorporated into another episode, but I'm just going to go ahead and put it out here. The Simpsons. Riding off the success of Hit and Run. I understand Road Rage is the Electronic Arts version, but Hit and Run is the greatest Simpsons game that was ever made. Road Rage, decent. It was kind of like Crazy Taxi. And the Simpsons arcade game by Konami, amazing. The Simpsons on 360, right around the time that the movie came out, wasn't a bad game, but it was the last game that we got on consoles. EA Sports made, or Electronic Arts made, Simpsons Tapped Out, and that was the last video game we got because they moved it over into the mobile market. And they were not worried about, what goes on with The Simpsons thus far. And after that game, I thought that there were going to be a sequel. There was supposed to be one in 2011. It was just canceled right out of nowhere. And like I said, once Tapped Out came out, it was real controversial. The microtransactions in the game were trash. And then one series that I didn't care about, and I'm glad that it ended, was Titanfall. Titanfall was trash. And you could get that game just for about anything. For like $1. Once again, going deeper, this is back to the 16-bit era. Road Rash. Road Rash was fun. You attack other guys on motorcycles or women with a little chain and bam. Road Rash 3D on the original PlayStation was fun. I actually enjoyed it. And it just seemed like after Road Rash 3D, and even Road Rash 64, after that, I don't remember it or anything else like it coming out. Another one. The Skate series. So much going on with Electronic Arts. They had so many things that they just dump time into certain things and then they get rid of them. Skate was amazing. Skate 2 was fun. Skate 3 was trash. From that point on, it's just whatever. Now back to the PC games real quick. Theme Park. There were a lot of simulators that came out of Electronic Arts development that were amazing. Just in the same veins of Dungeon Keeper, something from Bullfrog Productions. Great games. They were fun on the PC, but quickly disappeared. Now, something that Electronic Arts did bad, and they should have never been given the license, was Star Wars. Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, was decent. The second one, probably the worst Battlefront I ever played. The previous Battlefronts that were on the original Xbox and on PlayStation 2, the greatest. And you would think with a company like DICE, they would have been able to do something with it because they did something with the Battlefield license. Back to racing. Another critical game, this one's from Criterion Games, it is freaking Burnout. The only Burnout I can play today is Paradise. They remastered it and put it on the Nintendo Switch, but Burnout was fun. And it just doesn't make sense for them to stop making those games. I understand you have Need for Speed, but if anything, incorporate them both together, call it Need for Speed Burnout. That's my problem here. It's some quality stuff that we want to play, but you guys don't want to develop it. Burnout Paradise is the best game thus far. They made Black also. Black is a great game if you get a chance to play it. But after Burnout Remaster, nothing else. Now, Maxis. Maxis is a company that developed SimCity and SimCity 2000. And the SimCity games were my favorite games in that Sim area. And, they make The Sims, which is fine for whatever, but the SimCity was on point. I had it on Super Nintendo. A lot of good memories with that. Never had it on PC. I think I had it on a Sega Saturn also. And basically, when The Sims 4 came out, they got their money, and you never seen it again. So, SimCity was one that could come back. Now, I have nothing bad to say about Mass Effect, but Mass Effect is what it is. BioWare made the cult classics and the great Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic games, and you would think, with having that license, they would have taken BioWare and been like, hey, can you recreate this and make Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Part 3, Part 4, Part 5? But no, EA Sports doesn't care about that. Electronic Arts, I don't know, I keep calling it EA Sports. Electronic Arts doesn't care about the Star Wars license, but tying back into Mass Effect. Mass Effect is one of those games where 1 and 2 were great. 3 struggled but was alright. But when they came out with Andromeda, they dropped the ball. And in EA fashion, we get a remaster with the other 3 on it for the current systems. And you see how much you like the rich lore of being a space opera or soap opera universe type deal. And now it just seems like it's on hiatus. Now, one thing that everybody loved, we loved them Fight Night games. Electronic Arts just did not care. Like, I get angry when I talk about Electronic Arts. Fight Night, all of them games were fun. And I don't know why they stopped making them, because I would still play them right now. But after Fight Night went away, they moved along to the UFC, or they moved along to UFC and other stuff like that. Now, Command and Conquer. The strongest thing besides Desert Strike and Jungle Strike. Command and Conquer was something I learned to play early on. One of my favorite things to play also. And I don't understand why it didn't translate into consoles later. I mean, they came out on Xbox 360 and stuff like that, but we lost that. Now, the most disappointing part to me in EA history, Medal of Honor. Medal of Honor at one time was the best first-person shooter games that you could play. They were better than freaking Call of Duty at the time. Call of Duty actually probably took more chops from Medal of Honor, and then they become the company that the gaming structure that they are now. Medal of Honor was on fire. And it just couldn't keep up, and it never came back. So, you can let me know what you think. I honestly just believe that Electronic Arts fumbles games. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, no rhyme or reason. They just get it in there that something's not popular, so we're not going to cover it anymore. We're just not going to deal with it. So once again, I'm JR from West Virginia Commonplace, and this is another episode inside the Y series for Electronic Arts on this one. And I hope to continue to bring you some more episodes. Once again, I'm JR from West Virginia Commonplace, and you know what the end sounds like.
Please follow WV Uncommonplace on Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, TikTok, where we have some great content, Facebook, LinkedIn. Hit up the merch store at oncommonplace.square.site. Join the email list from the website, and rate, subscribe, and give feedback from your favorite podcatcher. And lastly, thanks for listening, and tune into the next episode.